Oh, well, hola, compañeros. It's your old pal, King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Hit like and subscribe. I'm a fan of advancing the timeline of whatever campaign setting or adventure module I might be employing in any games I'm running. It serves several purposes. It gives you an excuse to reframe certain plot points or assets that are presented in the source book so you can use it your own way and not necessarily the way that's written down. In part because it thwarts the experienced players that might be in your play group. There's always going to be at least that one dude who has read all the adventure modules, despite the fact that they're not a DM, and so you're not necessarily throwing a surprise curveball at them if you're using anything out of the published books. Or it could just be that if it's been out a while, some of your players, if they're not just solely locked into playing with you all the time, they might have already played through it, and that gives them foreknowledge of like what to do to get to the end as fast as they can and maximize their gains and all that kind of stuff. Which I mean, in some ways that is part of the aspect of it. It's like playing a video game more than once after you've beaten it. It's like you already know the story beats. It's not going to be a surprise twist or anything, but you get better at doing it, and that is, I guess, a way you can approach RPGs. But I like the excitement of keeping people on their toes and being able to keep, as I said, those more experienced players who've read a bit too much stuff on their toes. Pushing with things 10 years later works really well, on average. You can change the plots that are going on in that setting or that adventure to better match like what you would like to do with it. You can reframe certain NPCs so they're not acting in a way that the players are going to anticipate as easily, and so on and so forth. Also, you can make adjustments so you can tone something down for lower levels or beef something up for higher levels. This the instance of what I'm getting to is in my Spelljammer game that I just started, which hopefully the third session is going to be in a couple days. Assuming I finish writing out 5 little tiny mini quests before then, but I have no one to blame but myself for that one. I've so far in both sessions, an NPC that is Mordenkainen's brain in a jar has managed to make an appearance, and hopefully I might be able to get him to be a little bit of a series regular. And I've been liking the concept so far, and I think there's a lot of different potential avenues for usage. So I'm just going to throw it out there. The basic idea is Mordenkainen, the famous multiversal wizard who goes all the way back to the earliest days of Greyhawk and all that kind of stuff. At some point in the near future, had been captured by Illithids. And though they were inclined to, of course, want to eat his brain or turn him into one of them, they decided that his vast knowledge of stuff he had gained, not just of magic but just of different dimensions and worlds and all that kind of stuff over his years, was too valuable to risk damaging. So they cut his brain out and stuck it in a jar, and then fed his body to some Grimlocks. One of which is now, basically like his butler, who does, any little physical action that Mordenkainen can't actually do because he's just sitting there in his jar now. It strips him of his magic because since he can't actually perform verbal or hand gestures kind of stuff, for most of the spells are gone, so it's basically just reduced down to just psychic spells, which puts him down to being a challenge rating 3 minor psychic villain slash quest giving NPC. You can use him a little bit of both ways. Start off where he seems friendly, but eventually, you might find out he actually has some sort of sinister purpose because he's really just only really interested in tricking the players into helping him get a body back somehow or something along those lines. There's different things you can do with it. You can have like his astral form out there as almost like a separate entity that views the brain as this undead thing that has to be destroyed so he can actually move on beyond, being trapped in the realms between realms and all that kind of shit. So you have Mordenkainen's brain in a jar, and then later they can meet Mordenkainen's ghost, kind of a thing. Or it could just literally just be his astral form that had the silver cord cut or something along those lines. And, he could be in and part of the plot to get Mordenkainen into a new body. Since he's a challenge rating 3, I mean, if he does turn heel and the players have to face him, that's something that you can actually include with the first level group. And also, what makes him good for low level characters as an NPC quest giver is if you actually had like full power current state Mordenkainen in the game, there's like really no reason why they should even have to do the adventure. Like dude, go handle it. You got this kind of a thing. Well, I guess we'll just wait over here in the tavern and hear about it in a random rumor table. It neutralizes him and it makes him approachable so that the players could take him along on an adventure potentially, and he's not going to like way outclass and way overpower them. In fact, I think Mordenkainen's brain in a jar would provide a good balance between being helpful but also a bit of a hindrance, since he has no physical form and is constantly going to have to be worried about being carried around or set somewhere carefully. If a fight breaks out, you can't just like tossing him back and forth or keeping him on your backpack where he's sloshing around and could potentially get smashed by an enemy weapon or something. It's be a constant consideration to have to deal with in return for the psychic usefulness of having a brain in the jar ally, the one the characters has with them. Just tons of little things like that, I think, makes it an interesting NPC concept, and one I give to you, the great and noble people of YouTube. So until then, until next time, the time before the time, Waspination.